that she was hunting for a man in England from 2013 onwards, when her marriage had crashed and she couldn't find anyone in Canada at the time. And she wanted wealth and she wanted fame.
She was hoping to have intimate meetings with Howie Mandel. Mrs. Mandel got wind of this.
Meghan is in a losing battle because there is a lot that is still going to come out about her. She definitely wants us to have a certain image of her, and she just doesn't want things that she's done in the past to come out.
Tom Bower has dropped fresh claims about the famous names Meghan Markle was allegedly trying to connect with long before royal life ever entered the picture. A football star she was reportedly desperate to meet, singers who allegedly left her on red, a celebrity chef still linked to her name before Harry came along. The deeper you dig, the wilder it gets. Lizzie Cundy still brings up the moment Meghan allegedly asked the question that shifted the entire mood at the table. Back in 2013, Meghan had just touched down in London. New city, fresh energy, and a completely different social scene wide open in front of her. According to people around her at the time, she wasted zero time trying to climb into higher profile circles. Her split from Trevor Engelson had already set the internet on fire. Stories spread fast claiming the wedding ring was mailed back, no emotional conversation, no long goodbye, nothing. Cold, fast, and more transactional than personal. Then came the infamous dinner with Lizzie Cundy.
Trevor Engelson was very hesitant to put her forward for anything because Meghan was an embarrassment, no matter what she was put forward for and managed to get. She then tried to up the ante and turn it into something.
Same Meghan Markle, usually whinging and moaning about the press. She's flown in from Canada. And I wanted to be with my mates. I was like, no, I want to sit with my friends and have a giggle. He was like, no, look after her. But actually, we got on really, really well. And we did have a huge giggle. And she wanted to find an English boyfriend. So I said, look, I'll help you. So I was going through my phone. There was Ashley Cole, Chelsea footballer.
Before the night was even halfway over, Meghan allegedly asked straight out to be introduced to one of Britain's biggest football names. No slow build-up, no hesitation, just a direct ask right there at the table. And reportedly, it was not just any footballer. The name attached to the story was Ashley Cole. For anyone outside the UK, Ashley was everywhere back then. Major clubs, England caps, wall-to-wall media coverage. But by that point, headlines about his personal life were pulling just as much attention as his matches. Most celebrities were reportedly dodging extra tabloid heat, but according to these claims, Meghan allegedly saw those same circles as a golden opportunity instead. Lizzie reportedly declined to make the introduction. Tom Bower keeps revisiting that moment because he believes it exposed a much bigger pattern that every room Meghan entered came with a strategy attached, and every connection was a stepping stone towards something larger. What stunned people most was not just the request itself, but the sheer speed of it.
She knew exactly how to play. And the point about Meghan is easy to dislike her. But the point about her is that in her own terms, she is an astonishing success. She came from nothing, not a very successful actress. She had no money. She had no future after the Suits series in Canada. And suddenly she's an international star with quite a lot of money. And of course, in her terms, that's a great success.
You admired her at a performance, I mean.
Exactly. I mean, it was so little then, if not nothing, and it's nothing now. Do you know what I mean? But
so she got back. No, but she got back in touch, and I think that's interesting because she did this. See, Piers is raging. Piers Morgan is raging because he said that she ghosted him. But with you guys, it never got to anywhere because you had your girlfriend.
Yeah, like I say, it was nothing. It was absolutely nothing.
Meghan had barely unpacked before reportedly trying to network her way into London's elite social scene. No easing in, no patience, just full throttle from day one, and being turned down apparently did not slow her down one bit. If anything, reports suggest she widened the net and started reaching out to even bigger names. Then came the part that really got people talking because one celebrity reportedly saw her messages and said absolutely nothing back. By 2015, Meghan was allegedly sliding into the inboxes of British pop stars and trying to set up meetings. One name tied to the story was Matt Cardle, the former X Factor winner. At the time, Matt had a solid public profile and a loyal fan base across the UK. Reports claimed Meghan reached out saying she was a huge fan and hoped they could link up on her next trip to London. According to the story, Matt allegedly read the messages, considered responding for a brief moment, and then went completely silent. Full ghost, no reply, nothing. The same woman who would later walk into royal life on a global stage reportedly could not get a former X Factor winner to keep a basic conversation going. That detail alone still sends the internet into meltdown every time it resurfaces. But according to these stories, Meghan did not pause after that. She pivoted and shifted her focus toward another British name, Max George from The Wanted.
And the people who were on her hit list included Max George from the boy band The Wanted, the professional footballer, at the time Ashley Cole, and Matt Cardle, the former X Factor winner. So I'll get to all of that. But I think it's also sometimes very instructive, and I thank Princess Carparkle for the work finding these. Just taking a close look at the way that she appeared in the media.
She being published as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. She should have been published as Meghan Markle. And that would have actually aided her bona fides and made her far more credible and palatable and relatable than she has turned out to be.
At that time, Max was deep in the spotlight. Chart success, a massive fan base, TV appearances, and crossover attention from both sides of the Atlantic. Exactly the kind of connection she was reportedly targeting. Sources say the approach followed a pattern that was starting to look familiar. Compliments, playful energy, praise for his work, and then a casual suggestion to meet up sometime. Same move, different target. Max later said the whole interaction never felt serious to him. A few polite messages were exchanged, nothing meaningful was said, and he moved on without giving it a second thought. Then, years later, when Meghan and Prince Harry exploded across every headline on the planet, Max reportedly caught a glimpse of her face and thought, wait, wasn't she messaging me before? That moment alone became a full-blown talking point across tabloids and comment sections everywhere. Tom Bower keeps circling back to these claims because he says they directly challenge the polished image that was carefully presented to the public for years. According to him, Meghan was not simply someone being pursued by celebrities. He argues she was actively working to plant herself inside those circles, while many of the people she contacted allegedly showed little real interest in return. But while all of that was reportedly happening, another layer of her personal life was quietly unfolding at the exact same time. She was still connected to Canadian chef Corey Viciello, a well-regarded name in Toronto's restaurant scene, and this is where the timeline starts getting seriously complicated. Reports suggest she may have still been living with Corey right around the same time her connection to Prince Harry was first beginning.
The celebrity chef who dated Meghan for 2 years while she was shooting her TV show Suits in Toronto. One big question, was Meghan dating Corey at the time she had that fateful blind date with Prince Harry? One published report in Britain says she was still Corey Viciello's partner when Harry asked for her number. Corey isn't talking, but some are wondering if he took a little dig at Meghan following her engagement announcement.
We're doing just roasting chicken and
Roasting
having
chicken. Trying to roast chicken.
trying to roast a chicken. And
Just after they revealed they were roasting a chicken when Harry popped the question, Corey posted this video of chickens roasting with the caption, "Never gets old."
Let that sink in. According to multiple accounts that have surfaced over the years, Corey reportedly believed the relationship was still moving forward normally, while behind the scenes, things were already heading somewhere completely different. Tom Bower has zeroed in on this part repeatedly, arguing that the early timeline between Meghan and Harry does not line up in any clean or simple way. He claims certain details in early reports were quietly adjusted after people started raising questions about how the dates matched. Once audiences began comparing those timelines side by side, the overlap became very difficult to ignore. And honestly, imagine being Corey in that position. One moment everything feels completely stable, and the next, global headlines are plastering your partner's name next to one of the most famous figures on the planet. That kind of shock would stop anyone cold. But according to Bower's more explosive claims, Harry allegedly was not even the royal who first caught Meghan's attention. One of the most controversial rumors he keeps repeating is that Prince William was reportedly on her radar long before Harry ever entered the picture. And when that claim resurfaced in 2026,
Find out what we can discover, since she doesn't want to come out and own it, you know? And that's the worst thing you can do. And that's what's going to bite Meghan. The fact that she tries to paint these pretty pictures, paint a life of hardship and struggle, but want to do philanthropy now and all these good things. But if you had to do the ugly and the nasty in the past, that's just what it was, girl.
the internet absolutely lost it. Old blog posts allegedly written by Meghan herself started getting dragged back into public conversation, and they painted a picture very different from what people later heard in interviews. On her former lifestyle website, she reportedly wrote glowing commentary about the royal family, praised Kate's wedding, described the magic of royal life, and expressed deep admiration for Princess Diana. Most of those posts later vanished from public view. But critics say the internet has a long memory. Archived screenshots, saved pages, and recycled reposts kept those entries circulating for years. Tom Bower has pointed to those old entries repeatedly as evidence that Meghan's fascination with royal life started long before Harry was ever in the conversation. Then came the rumor about a so-called vision board. According to stories shared by royal commentators, Meghan allegedly had images tied to royalty and luxury lifestyles pinned up while living in Toronto during her acting years. At the time, she was still pushing hard for a bigger breakthrough in her career, and people now claim those pinned images made her real ambitions crystal clear. According to some of the more explosive claims still circulating online, Prince William was allegedly the royal who first caught her eye. But William was already firmly settled into family life with Catherine, now Princess of Wales, and their growing family. To most royal watchers, that door was never going to open. And that, critics claim,
they walked hand in hand in front of the cameras for the first time. Prince Harry making a deliberately public display of royal affection for his girlfriend, American actress Meghan Markle. The couple greeted fans at the Invictus Games in Canada Monday, an international sports competition for injured and sick military veterans.
Is exactly when the focus reportedly shifted toward Harry instead. At the time, Harry was frequently portrayed in the media as emotionally unsettled, frustrated with the constraints of royal life, and searching for something solid after years of intense public pressure. Commentators like Tom Bower argue Meghan allegedly spotted an opening there and moved on it with serious intent. Over the last few years, people who attended London social events during that period have reportedly come forward with some seriously eyebrow-raising accounts of Meghan's behind-the-scenes networking style. According to these stories, she was laser-focused, constantly working every room, making introductions, and positioning herself next to the most influential people available at every opportunity. Some individuals even claimed Meghan openly talked about wanting a wealthy British partner. Those comments exploded online because they seemed to line up perfectly with the image critics had already been building around her rise into elite circles. But according to these same discussions, the ambition allegedly did not start in London. Critics claim Meghan had already spent years moving through wealthy international social scenes long before Harry ever appeared on her radar. That is where the internet started dragging back the infamous yacht girl rumors. For anyone unfamiliar with the phrase, it refers to glamorous party circles built around luxury travel, celebrity access, billionaire events, and high-profile networking. Monaco, Saint-Tropez, five-star resorts, private yacht gatherings, these locations keep getting pulled back into the conversation every single time those rumors resurface. Tom Bower has hinted at pieces of this world in his commentary, while other gossip writers have pushed the claims into much bolder territory.
A couple you don't know whether they're, prince and princess or not. You don't go around hugging them. You just say hello and you smile very nicely, and you don't behave as if you're going to have an affair in the next half hour.
According to those reports, Meghan allegedly spent time around wealthy businessmen, powerful investors, celebrities, and international elite circles during stretches of her 20s, while trying to level up inside the entertainment world. But critics say the most telling detail is this: despite years of allegedly being around rich and influential men, none of those connections reportedly turned into anything lasting. Online commentary argues that people inside those circles are sharp enough to spot pure ambition from a distance, and they often kept things casual and guarded rather than serious. Then there are the photos that gossip accounts keep recycling, images allegedly linking Meghan to high society party settings connected to controversial public figures, including Prince Andrew, still surface online years later. Some commentators even attempt to connect those elite social environments to the wider wealthy party networks that were heavily scrutinized in the media during that era, though many of those claims remain disputed and unproven. When critics stack all of these rumors together, they say a much larger picture starts forming. According to royal commentators, it helps explain why Meghan allegedly appeared so effortlessly comfortable inside elite royal circles, almost from day one. It also raises questions about why large stretches of her 20s get quietly skipped over in interviews, jumping straight from childhood straight into Suits, as if nothing else worth mentioning happened in between. And according to Tom Bower and other critics, the image overhaul did not stop there. They argue the public was handed a polished version of Meghan.
That she was hunting for a man in England from 2013 onwards, when her marriage had crashed and she couldn't find anyone in Canada at the time. And she wanted wealth and she wanted fame. And there's no doubt she targeted Harry and found someone who was a childhood friend of his who could introduce them. And then on the days before they met at their blind meeting in a club in London, she researched Harry very carefully and knew exactly what buttons to press. That he would like Africa, was interested in animals, was interested in philanthropy. She's very tactile, she's very seductive. And she landed him on the first night, even on his own admission. He says, I realized on the first date, she was the one. And of course, that's because she's also a great, in that sense, an actress. She knew exactly how to play.
As a major Hollywood success story, when the reality, they claim, was considerably more modest. Let's be straight about this. Meghan Markle was never truly considered an A-list Hollywood name. Suits gave her real visibility, no question, but it was still a cable series filmed largely in Toronto, not a global blockbuster dominating cinema screens worldwide. Before Prince Harry entered the picture, a significant portion of people outside entertainment circles had never even heard her name. Tom Bower keeps hammering this point because he believes the public narrative got heavily inflated once the royal relationship went global. According to him, Meghan had reached a respectable level in television, but a fast track to major movie stardom was nowhere close to guaranteed. What makes it even more surprising is that Meghan reportedly had stronger industry connections than most struggling actors could ever dream of landing. Her uncle, Peter Markle, spent years working as a television and film director. Her aunt by marriage, Melinda Cooler, had her own established acting career. Critics say those connections alone should have swung major doors wide open without much effort. But despite all that access, Meghan allegedly still struggled to land the kind of breakout roles that turn actors into genuine Hollywood names. Instead,
new claims that Meghan Markle has told major porcupines about her Hollywood past. This time, they're coming directly from a major star. An A-lister in California, or at least in the TV space, Howie Mandel. The former host of Deal or No Deal, who went on to be a judge on America's Got Talent. And as British Royalty posted, Kinsey Schofield just destroyed Meghan Markle's entire Deal or No Deal sob story in 30 seconds flat.
She joined Deal or No Deal as a suitcase model, smiling on stage and holding numbered briefcases for contestants. And years later, people connected to the show started pulling back the curtain on behind-the-scenes stories, and things reportedly got far messier than anyone anticipated. Tom Bower hinted at rumors surrounding regarding Meghan's behavior during that period, while online commentary amplified old claims from former staff and alleged insiders. According to reports circulating in 2026, Meghan allegedly carried herself very differently backstage compared to the carefully polished image projected in interviews. Critics pointed to her later comments about feeling objectified on the show, while former staff disputed parts of that narrative and described a behind-the-scenes environment far more complicated than what audiences were told. And honestly, all of that ties directly back to the Piers Morgan story, because royal critics say it exposes the exact same pattern people keep accusing her of repeating. According to reports, the two first connected online after Meghan sent friendly messages praising his work and suggesting they meet during one of her London visits. Piers later described her as charming and genuinely interesting. They met at a pub in Kensington for drinks and easy conversation. Then Harry entered the picture, and according to Piers, Meghan vanished from his life completely overnight. No follow-up messages, no casual check-ins, no friendship, absolutely nothing. That detail still sends royal commentary sections into overdrive, because critics say it fits the exact image they have been building for years. The moment a stronger connection appeared, everyone else allegedly became irrelevant instantly. For Piers Morgan, who has never once stopped talking about it publicly, that cut clearly left a lasting mark. Tom Bauer describes it as a signature move: charm someone, use the connection, then drop them completely, like the whole thing never happened. According to critics online, names like Ashley Cole, Matt Cardle, Max George, Corey Vitiello, Piers Morgan, and even family members including Thomas Markle and Samantha Markle.
I followed 4 of the stars of Suits on Twitter. Yeah. Within 5 minutes, I got this direct message from Meghan Markle.
A private message, obviously.
Yeah. And it said, "Hey, I'm a big fan, and so excited you're following me." And this is
said to you.
This was about 3 years ago, and I replied, and then another guy in Suits who plays another character, he got involved too, and we corresponded quite regularly on Twitter, publicly and privately. She began sending me early copies of Suits episodes.
Right.
She'd email me from, places like Rwanda. I thought we had a good sort of friendship building. She then said, "I'm coming to London to watch the tennis with Serena Williams," who's her friend, and I know Serena well too. And she said, "Would you like to meet up for a drink?" I said, "Come to my local pub. I'm an Irishman. Come to my pub." So she came to my local pub in Kensington, ironically about half a mile from Kensington Palace, where she now lives. Nobody knew who she was, but she walked in. I remember the locals, right? All these old guys like this, drinking their pints, and in walks Meghan Markle like $1 million. But they didn't know who she was, but they thought she's something special. Yeah. We had 2 hours in the pub. She had a couple of dirty martinis, had a couple of pints. We got on brilliantly. And then I put her in a cab, and it turned out to be a cab that took her to a party where she met Prince Harry. And then the next night, they had a solo dinner together, and that was the last I ever heard from Meghan Markle. And I have never heard from her again. She ghosted me, Ryan. Meghan Markle ghosted.
All get pulled into this same alleged pattern. Former friends and past connections keep getting dragged back into the conversation constantly. And now in 2026, commentators claim that same cycle is playing out on the biggest stage it has ever reached. But this time, the focus is not on any of those names. It is on Prince Harry himself, and the entire world is watching every single move. Look at the current empire critics have been picking apart. Netflix deals have reportedly been scaled back, with fewer major productions moving forward than originally promised. Some projects quietly disappeared, while others landed to heavy criticism after release. The lifestyle brand launch created enormous buzz at first, but mixed reactions followed, and maintaining that early momentum has proven far more difficult than expected. The jam and lifestyle product rollout was heavily promoted out of the gate, but critics argue that restocks and long-term consistency never matched that first wave of hype. Brand partnerships are reportedly becoming harder to secure, with fewer high-profile collaborations being announced compared to earlier years. Industry watchers suggest the pull that once surrounded her name is visibly losing steam. And then there is Harry. Because people have not stopped talking about him, and what is coming out now is something else entirely. Observers say Harry appears increasingly isolated, and the details coming out now are making that picture even harder to ignore.
Harry and Meghan are not doing well in Hollywood. The future is looking
quite bleak for them in the entertainment industry. And I think we can see that Meghan feels it. Meghan feels the pressure, Meghan feels the failure, and Meghan feels so many things. And her solution is to grin as hard as humanly possible to try and sell us a fairy tale that is utterly dead.
Reports describe him spending more time away from public life, seen in quieter and more private settings, stepping back from the kind of visibility that once defined his entire identity. According to critics, even the people immediately around him have shifted considerably over the years. Familiar faces from his earlier life have quietly faded out, replaced by a much smaller and tighter circle than most people would have expected for someone of his profile. And while Harry's situation continues drawing attention on its own, the voices driving this entire conversation are showing absolutely no signs of cooling down. Lizzie Cundy keeps revisiting her personal encounters and what she allegedly witnessed firsthand. Piers Morgan, who has made no secret of how that chapter of his life ended, continues speaking with the kind of sharpness that only comes from someone who feels genuinely wronged. Tom Bower, arguably the most persistent of all of them, keeps releasing fresh claims and revisiting old ones with new context attached every single time. Every new interview any of them gives seems to crack open a controversy that had barely settled. Every article adds a fresh layer of tension to a story that was already stretched to its limits. In their collective view, the carefully constructed public image, the one built around philanthropy, female empowerment, and a reimagined version of modern royal storytelling only holds together as long as the audience never looks too far back. The moment someone starts pulling at the threads, critics say the entire picture begins unraveling faster than expected. And that unraveling is exactly what appears to be happening right now in 2026. Past relationships that were barely discussed for years are suddenly back under a microscope. Early career choices that most people had forgotten about are being replayed and reanalyzed with fresh eyes. Disputed timelines that were once quietly buried are being lined up and compared again in ways that are very difficult to dismiss. Long-buried rumors that seemed to lose momentum years ago are circulating with more energy than ever before. Critics argue the narrative surrounding Meghan and Harry has simply grown too large and too layered to manage effectively anymore. What started as royal gossip has expanded into a full-scale, ongoing public debate, involving former friends, estranged family members.
Meghan just dropped. I don't know how to do this. You're looking at that. I don't know how to. I'm doing this video because I have to, but I couldn't stop laughing doing this. But okay, I have to say this. I have to do this. Meghan dropped a new as ever promo video on Monday afternoon, and the entire internet had the same reaction inside 9 minutes. The video is sold to the audience as a marmalade campaign or whatever she is selling. It's not marmalade, it's jam, right? Okay. But the audience, everyone, saw something else. The internet by Monday evening had landed on a single comparison the brand team did not approve in the kitchen meeting.
Entertainment industry insiders, royal commentators, and millions of people across social media platforms worldwide. Every new detail that emerges does not bring the story closer to resolution. It adds more fuel, more questions, and more pressure to a situation that many observers describe as already sitting at a genuine breaking point. But what makes 2026 feel different from previous years is the sheer volume of voices now involved. This is no longer just Tom Bower writing a book or Piers Morgan venting on television. Ordinary people who claim to have crossed paths with Meghan during her pre-royal years are stepping forward with their own accounts. Social media threads are connecting dots between old blog posts, archived interviews, early photographs, and public statements in ways that are increasingly difficult to brush aside. The conversation has moved beyond tabloids and into everyday discussions happening across every platform imaginable. And at the center of it all sits a question that keeps getting louder. How much of the story that the public was given actually lines up with the story that allegedly played out behind the scenes? Critics say the gaps between those two versions are becoming harder and harder to paper over with each passing month. Every time a new account surfaces, it adds another data point to an argument that commentators like Bauer have been making for years, that the public narrative was carefully managed from very early on, and that the management did not always align with what people around her were privately experiencing. The Piers Morgan chapter alone speaks volumes, according to royal watchers. Here was a man with significant media power who, by all accounts, genuinely enjoyed Meghan's company and reportedly looked forward to building a real friendship. He opened doors, made time, and engaged with her as someone he found interesting and worth knowing. Then the moment a more powerful connection arrived, critics say that entire relationship was switched off without a second thought. No conversation, no gradual distancing, no acknowledgement, just silence. To his supporters, that experience explains everything about how Piers has spoken about Meghan ever since. It was not simply a celebrity grudge. According to him, it was a direct personal experience of the exact behavior that critics claim defines a much larger pattern. And because Piers has the platform and the temperament to make sure that story never gets forgotten, it has remained one of the most referenced examples in this entire ongoing saga. Then there is the family dimension, which adds a completely different kind of weight to everything. Thomas Markle and Samantha Markle have spoken publicly for years, and neither of them has stopped. Whatever personal complications may exist within that family dynamic, critics say their ongoing public presence keeps reminding audiences that the estrangement is real and unresolved. Every interview either of them gives reopens a wound that clearly has not healed, and it keeps the question of family loyalty and public image squarely in the conversation. Royal commentators argue that the combination of all these elements, the pre-royal networking stories, the disputed timelines, the industry career narrative, the pattern of connections made and then severed, the family estrangement, the fading business momentum, creates a portrait that is fundamentally different from the one presented to the world when Meghan first stepped into the spotlight alongside Harry. Back then, the story being told was one of a self-made, independent, socially conscious woman who fell in love with a prince and chose a life of purpose over privilege. Critics say that framing required a very selective reading of everything that came before it. And now, piece by piece, those earlier chapters are being reopened. The lifestyle brand that launched with enormous fanfare is being scrutinized for consistency and staying power. The Netflix partnership that was announced with sweeping ambition is being measured against what has actually been delivered. The philanthropic ventures are being examined alongside the commercial ones. And the personal story, the one about who Meghan was before any of this, is being retold by people who claim they were actually there. What makes this moment particularly significant is that the scrutiny is no longer coming only from declared critics or known opponents. Neutral observers, former entertainment industry colleagues, and people who have no obvious agenda are now adding their voices to the mix. That shift matters because it makes the conversation harder to dismiss as purely politically motivated or driven by personal grudges. When people with no clear stake in the outcome start raising similar questions, the weight of those questions increases considerably. Harry's position inside all of this remains one of the most watched and most discussed aspects of the entire story. He came into this chapter of his life carrying enormous public sympathy, a grieving son, a frustrated royal, a man searching for freedom and authenticity outside the institution he was born into. That narrative earned him genuine goodwill from millions of people around the world who saw his pain as real and his frustrations as understandable. But the goodwill has been tested repeatedly. Interviews that promised raw honesty were criticized for selective storytelling. A memoir that was supposed to set the record straight generated as many new controversies as it resolved. Public appearances that were meant to demonstrate a thriving independent life have instead raised questions about direction and stability. And now, with reports of increasing isolation and a quieter public presence, people are asking openly what the next chapter actually looks like for him. critics who were skeptical from the beginning say this is exactly the outcome they predicted. They argued early on that Harry was being moved away from his support system, his family, his established identity, and the institution that, whatever its faults, provided him with structure and purpose. They claimed the replacement offered in exchange was built on an unstable foundation of celebrity connections, commercial ventures, and a public narrative that would eventually struggle to sustain itself. In 2026, those critics feel more validated than ever before. Supporters of Harry and Meghan push back hard against all of it. They argue that the relentless scrutiny is itself the problem, that no version of their lives would ever be accepted by critics who decided the ending before the story even began. They point out that many of the claims circulating online remain unverified, that Tom Bower has clear commercial incentives for keeping controversy alive, and that people like Piers Morgan are hardly neutral sources on anything related to Meghan. Those counter-arguments carry real weight and deserve to be acknowledged honestly. But even accounting for all of that, the sheer volume and persistence of the conversation cannot simply be explained away. Something about this story continues to grip public attention in a way that goes beyond ordinary celebrity gossip. It touches on questions about authenticity, ambition, image management, loyalty, and the gap between public personas and private behavior that resonate far beyond the specific details of any royal drama. That is why in 2026, years after the initial explosion of Meghan and Harry's departure from royal life, the conversation is not fading. It is evolving, expanding, and pulling in new voices at every turn. The questions being asked now are sharper and more specific than the ones being asked at the beginning. And the people asking them are no longer just tabloid writers and royal insiders. They are everyday audiences who followed the story with genuine curiosity and are now sitting with details that do not add up as cleanly as they once seemed. Which part of all this lands the hardest for you? Is it the pre-royal networking stories and what they suggest about ambition and strategy? Is it the disputed timelines and what they might reveal about how the public story was constructed? Is it the pattern of connections made and then cut off that critics keep pointing to? Is it Harry's current situation and what it signals about where things are genuinely headed? Or is it something else entirely, a detail that stuck with you from somewhere in this story that nobody else seems to be talking about loudly enough? Drop all of it in the comments because this community has some of the sharpest takes anywhere online, and this conversation is nowhere near finished. If this breakdown shifted your perspective or gave you something to think about that you had not considered before, hit that subscribe button right now so you are locked in for everything coming next. Tap the like button because it genuinely helps push this content to more people who need to hear it. Share this with someone in your circle who follows this story closely because their reaction alone will be worth it. We will see you in the next one.